Let's begin. Okay, Russell Brand is a well-known British comedian that started in the early 2000s and spent decades on our TVs. He was loved by everyone for his promiscuous charm and honesty about his addiction issues. However, everything might not be as it seems. A documentary has revealed some incredibly disturbing allegations against Russell. Today, we're going to discuss what's been talked about in the documentary and the aftermath. Do you think he's guilty or not? Let's discuss it. Hi everyone, and welcome back to Partners and Crime. My name is Poppy, and this is
Roger.
And this is going to be a long one today. So
Buckle in,
get a drink.
Buckle up.
Strap in.
Yeah, strap in.
Buckle up. Massive trigger warning for this one today. We're talking a lot about sexual assault, rape, and sex and drug addiction. Some of it will be in some detail, so please do not listen to this if any of those things will trigger you at all. Just do whatever's right for you. But yeah, I'd leave this one. And also, this is going to be a two-parter. I think it will be, because it's quite a lot of info. So obviously this is the first part. So yes, like I was saying, this one's going to be about a documentary that's come out recently about a comedian called Russell Brand, who's massive in the UK and worldwide.
Huge
probably.
Worldwide, yeah, I would say so.
He's been in blockbuster movies and all sorts, so I'm sure you've all heard of him.
And if you haven't, you probably have now. So
that's very true. So on the 16th of September 2023 at 9 p.m, Dispatches released a documentary on a UK TV channel called Channel 4. Dispatches is an investigative group that is known for revealing the underbelly of a variety of subjects. Other episodes are called The Prince and the Paedophile. I wonder who that's about. How Green is the Government, and Locked Away, Our Autism Scandal. So they kind of range their topics quite a lot as well. It's really interesting. So normally when they are releasing a documentary, you can see the subject and the title, so you can gauge what it's about, blah, blah, blah. But they didn't for this episode, and they wanted to keep it a secret, which left a lot of speculation. They called it a Dispatches special. And so on the previous day to it being released on the 15th, Russell went onto his social media to reveal that he had been sent letters regarding serious criminal allegations that he absolutely refutes. He doesn't go into a lot of detail, but also mentions his promiscuity when he was younger and made a point to ensure the viewer knew everything was always consensual, and ended it with saying the media is attacking him and trying to basically shut him and his voice down. So he wanted to get in there first.
I mean, just to note, I haven't watched it. I did see that little video of Russell Brand sort of exclaiming his innocence. I did watch that, but I haven't seen the documentary itself. Yeah, of course it is. It's an interesting point that he's tried to jump in there before the whole thing came out and went out to, express his innocence. It's an interesting tactical move, maybe.
I think as we go through all of this, we'll see that is very much something that he goes by. He likes to do that, kind of gets in there first, or makes sure he gives out his narrative, things like that. Anyway, so let's just go back in time a little bit. Let's start from the beginning, as we always do. He was born in 1975 in Essex, England. He was brought up by his mum as a single parent, who unfortunately was diagnosed with uterine cancer and then breast cancer the year after. And so Russell went to live with relatives where he developed bulimia at 14 years old. So already pretty, traumatic childhood. I believe his mother did survive though. She didn't die, which is amazing. Then a couple years later is when he started experimenting with illegal drugs such as ecstasy, LSD and amphetamines, which, if you know anything about Russell, he becomes a heroin and crack addict, as well as other things. This leads him to being arrested on several occasions and being fired from jobs, because obviously he's a drug addict. In 2000, he's still heavily addicted to drugs. He had started to make a name for himself in the stand-up comedy circles and started presenting several shows on MTV. He actually... Sorry, I'm laughing just because it's just ridiculous. I'll probably laugh a few times because it's just... Some of these stories are just ridiculous. He actually introduced his drug dealer to Kylie Minogue. Who, if you don't know who that is, she's like a pop star.
Yeah, huge.
She's an Australian pop star, but she's like worldwide huge. He was, of course, fired from MTV. Not because of that, though, because he decided to dress up as Osama bin Laden the day after the 9/11 attacks. So, I mean, that says it all, doesn't he? Which is obviously disgusting behaviour, and Brand has since in interviews blamed it on his addiction to crack and heroin.
Right.
Because obviously his mind wouldn't have been functioning properly, but
No, yeah.
still.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, the day after, it's not really a time to be making political comedy jokes about it. It's a bit ridiculous.
He also performed at the Edinburgh Fringe Festival, which is a comedy festival that happens every year in Scotland, but got kicked out for abusive behaviour towards a member of the audience who ended up throwing a glass at him. He had a role in a film called Cruise of the Gods, which starred Steve Coogan, Rob Brydon, James Corden, and like a bunch of other people. And he was supposed to be there for 3 weeks filming on a cruise. But he caused so many problems behind the scenes with his general attitude, he was fired and only had one line in the whole film. In 2002, he had a radio show on XFM radio, but was yet again fired for reading pornographic material live on air. He also got his own TV show called Rebrand, where Russell investigates subjects seen as taboo by society, which is interesting because that's kind of what he talks about now. This is wild, but in one episode, this is crazy, this is actually on TV, he performs a sexual act with a gay man in a pub toilet.
On live TV?
On TV. It wasn't live, it was filmed.
Oh, right,
And then it was still put out. Obviously, the act's not film, you don't see the act.
Right.
But the build-up to the act, and then after the act...
All occurs.
Is filmed, yeah.
God, the kind of stuff we used to put on TV is nuts, isn't it?
It gets crazy.
I'm sure it does, but yeah.
Brand later describes this encounter. I must say, it wasn't for me. I didn't really enjoy it. My tendencies and inclination towards women are very, very powerful. I like them very much. He was still addicted to drugs at this time and also a self-proclaimed sex addict until the end of 2002, where his agent, John Knoll, forced him to go to rehab after finding him doing heroin at the Christmas party.
Okay.
So you can already see a pattern forming here. He gets work, he gets some, good opportunities as a drug addict. He's already on TV,
Yeah.
He does something stupid or inappropriate and gets fired, but he's always still progressing and getting better work and slowly kind of getting more famous and well-known.
Yeah. I mean, I find myself sort of chuckling a little bit at some of the acts that you're talking about, some of the things that
it's ridiculous.
He's sort of done. And I don't know whether I'm laughing because because I know who he is, if you know what I mean. I'm aware of who he is.
Yeah.
And I have found him quite funny in the past. And and maybe I still do at times, but yeah.
You won't soon, I'm sure. Russell re-emerged from rehab in 2003 and jumped straight back into working on TV. He got his big break when he became the host of a TV show called Big Brother's E-Forum in 2004, a panel show that would play after the main show where celebrity guests and fans would discuss what's going on in the main show, Big Brother, which I'm sure you've heard of. He was now sober, so his reckless, inappropriate behaviour would lessen now. Right?
You'd hope.
This next part of the story is alleged. It has not been confirmed officially. It is the words from a victim who has remained anonymous, and they called her Rachel in the documentary. So that's what I'm going to call her too. Rachel was a runner on the show Euphorum and was one of the youngest members on the team. She was in charge of ensuring Russell was where he was meant to be at the right time, etc. She describes how Russell took a special interest in her almost straight away. He had a way of making her feel special. Senior members of the team saw this interaction between her and Russell and would use it to their advantage. If their higher-ups had a message or some news that wasn't necessarily good news, they would get Rachel to tell him because they knew, because she was telling him that it would soften the blow.
Right.
They were so worried about upsetting him and causing a relapse back into drugs that they just didn't want to rock the boat. So they used her to give Russell the news.
Just like any old news about like the show or like something's
Just
gone wrong
negative
and it's
news.
going. Yeah, right. Okay.
It was the bad news, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Because she would soften the blow.
Yeah.
Her.
I get that bit. Yeah.
She describes how the line started to blur between professionalism, friendship to more. On one occasion, Rachel went to ask Russell about lunch. He turned towards her and had his penis in his hand and insinuated that she might like to suck his dick. She said no, but admits to feeling scared as she had it instilled in her to not rock the boat. She was scared of the repercussions of her rejecting him if anyone found out. This kind of behaviour continued as time went on. He became more and more flirty and she became flattered by it. She had been sucked in. She described him as intoxicating and they had sex outside of work. However, according to Rachel, in his contract, he wasn't allowed to have sex with anyone that worked on Big Brother.
Right.
She wasn't aware of his sex addiction, but clearly management did if they wrote it into his contract. Channel 4 have denied that this was in his contract. So
But he wasn't to have sex with anyone.
yeah, they've denied that they'd seen that in his contract. 19 years later, Rachel feels as if she was groomed by Russell for sex.
Right.
3 more Big Brothers were... It's a fly.
I know, it's quite annoying. I mean, is there something to be said for the way that Channel 4 acted in that situation that is actually rather unprofessional as well? Yes,
that is a running theme throughout this whole thing.
Right. Yeah.
Not just Channel 4. But obviously, it's a tricky thing because Channel 4... Well, they didn't make the documentary, but it is on there.
Yeah, well, they paid for it, I guess.
They funded it. But I'm hoping they funded it in a way to obviously reveal all this information to then better themselves as well.
Hopefully. I like to think Channel 4's a bit like that, but
yeah.
you know.
Yeah, that's what I would hope.
Can't trust anything.
All we know, we'll get into some more of these things, but 3 more Big Brother workers came forward also who worked with Russell Brand within the 3 years he hosted Big Brother's Euphorum. They wanted to stay anonymous.
3 others?
3 workers, yeah. They described how part of their job was to fill out the audience with people, so they would hand out flyers at the local universities and get them to come to the studio for a few hours. Russell would point out members of the audience and get runners to get their numbers, hand them notes with his number or where he's staying at which hotel, etc., so they could meet up with him after the show. Just to clarify, these girls were all of legal age, but they were still young, between ages like 18 to 22, roughly.
And he was? Probably mid to late 20s, I guess. He was 75. What year was this bit?
So he started from 2004 for 3 years.
So he's knocking 30. Yeah, he's knocking 30.
These workers would then receive phone calls the next day with girls crying down the phone. They had sex with Russell and just felt completely used and upset. It got to the point where the runners felt like pimps for Russell and taking lambs to the slaughter. Concerns from the crew started to grow within the production team of Euphorum about Russell's behaviour, but they weren't sure if the complaints ever went higher as nothing really came of this. Even if it didn't go higher up, it was brought to the attention of the production team, and they have a duty of care and for standards to be upheld during production, which it doesn't sound like it did, as they were too concerned about rocking the boat. That's also a very common theme throughout this whole thing of people knowing of his behaviour that could have done something to prevent things happening, and nothing happens. Channel 4 commented and said there was no evidence that the alleged incidents were brought to their attention.
Okay.
Russell was sent back to rehab after the second series of E4 wrapped up, but this time it was for sex addiction. It isn't explained what spurred this on, but I wonder if it was because of the production team putting complaints in. Maybe word was getting out a bit too much for his agent's liking, and so they were like, right, let's get you to rehab for sex addiction. Let's nip this in the bud.
Right, yeah.
But still, none of this stopped Russell's career. When he left rehab, he was brought back on the team of E4, which had changed its name to Big Brother's Big Mouth, which is that's when I remember him kind of coming into my forefront.
Yeah, same. Well, I remember a TV show on BBC called Ponderland that I quite enjoyed.
Yeah, I feel like I remember the name, but I don't think I ever watched it. And I remember finding him funny and ridiculous and a bit like kooky.
Very out there, wasn't he?
He's
the kind of comedian that, our parents wouldn't like. But yeah, he's the kind of comedian that you liked because he was a bit of a rebel, in a way.
Yeah, he was just very out there. He said
ludicrous things.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
Yeah. In Russell Brand's first autobiography book called My Bookie Book, he quoted something he had written in the past, some kind of diary entry, which read, "Russell, you have fucked up every professional opportunity you have ever been given. Now you've been given yet another last chance and are finally free from drugs and alcohol. You have already begun to tarnish your reputation at Big Brother." Now, I'm not sure what he's referring to when he mentions, his reputation at Big Brother. But when you've got multiple women stating these things going on behind the scenes at Big Brother, and he's saying he's fucking things up.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean,
it just makes you think, doesn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it puts two and two together kind of thing.
Helen Berger was his personal assistant during this time between 2006 and 2007. She hadn't heard a lot about him previously, just that Bob Geldof called him a "see you next Tuesday" at the VMA Awards, which is hilarious. Okay.
Bob Geldof's always been he's always seemed like a bit of a miserable knob, but he's probably actually
I don't really know a lot about him, really, but
quite down to earth.
It was just a very funny scene.
Yeah.
Helen describes Russell's career as really taking off at this point. She started working for him. He was on a national comedy tour, writing a book, writing a column in The Guardian. He was on the radio. He hosted 2 TV shows, Big Brother's Big Mouth and One Leicester Square, which I'd never heard of. So he really was everywhere. There was no ignoring Russell Brand. He was always his unfiltered, provocative, sexualised self, no matter what platform he was on. Russell, the sex addict, was celebrated in the press for his promiscuity and was actually voted Shagger of the Year in The Sun, of course, in 2006. 3 years in a row.
God.
Yeah.
The Sun. What a disgusting piece of newspaper.
Absolutely gross.
That's our opinion on that.
Now, obviously, that's fine. He didn't do it himself. He didn't get him, he didn't write that article.
No, of course not. No, that's not his responsibility. That's just the horrible people over at The Sun.
It's things like this where his actions are overlooked and then even celebrated that will then reinforce his behaviour. Making him act even more sexualised.
Yeah, of course.
More openly sexualised.
It's this sort of thing that happens when criminals get away with it.
Yeah.
Well,
it's like anything, like stealing.
Yeah. If you get away with it, you're going to think, oh, I can probably do it again.
I can do bigger, more expensive things, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, it's a ripple effect. Helen admits, "I saw a lot of women know who he was, Shagger of the Year, who willingly were walking into his bedroom. I never once thought he was someone that would rape anybody, assault anybody. I didn't think so, as far as I knew. I mean, what can I possibly know when I wasn't there?" And this is a fair enough statement, as yes, I bet a lot of women would flock towards him, knowing he's a celebrity, he's very promiscuous. But it's the action of using his employees to meet these women through his job seems just like a massive breach of power.
Yeah, and I think that the power aspect is really where all the danger comes from in all of this, and usually in any fucking situation.
Similarly to the runners of Big Brother's Big Mouth, Helen was also asked to get the audience members' phone numbers for Russell. She said, "I saw a lot of things that if I walked in now, I'd say, oh, that's not right. But back then, everything was so normalised. So that's just an example of this. He was always in his underwear when he was home or in hotels when she was around. This is a move that Harvey Weinstein did as well. If you don't know who he is, the guy that got convicted of multiple rapes and sexual assaults. It's just a classic move, just to be in his underwear and making that normal.
Yeah, right.
To be practically completely naked.
Yeah.
And for whatever woman it is to just think, oh, that's Russell, that's
Yeah,
normal.
right. It's normal behaviour.
And then suddenly, whatever happens next happens. Lorraine Heggessy, a senior television executive, explained the impact of Russell's behaviour really well. Quote, looking on the face of it, Russell having sex with women over the age of 18, what's the big deal with that? The thing that is not okay is the atmosphere of women being dispensable, women being used for sex. You can pick them out at work like on a menu. They are all really harmful attitudes that can snowball into things that are more serious, which is kind of what we were saying, but she just says it in a really good way of like picking them out like on a menu.
Yeah,
it's really just...
Well, it's just complete objectification, isn't it?
It's just like business, isn't it? He's like, right, go get their number,
Yeah. Right, yeah.
Let them know where I am. They turn up.
Yeah.
We have sex. I chuck them out.
They're an object for his pleasure.
Yeah.
An item, which, they're people, so...
It's still around 2006 when Russell had his TV show called One Leicester Square, a chat show where celebrities would come on to be interviewed, such as David Hasselhoff, Vanessa Feltz, and Danny Dyer, and loads of other celebrities. This is when Russell allegedly starts a relationship with a 16-year-old girl, who in the documentary is called Alice. Bearing in mind he's about 30.
Yeah, this is the one that I've
31.
heard the most about,
Yeah.
I think, just from other sources.
This information is all still alleged and hasn't been officially proven. Alice had a friend that worked in the Leicester Square building where Russell worked on his TV show. She was leaving the building one day and Russell was walking in at the same time. He went over to her and took her shopping bags from her and picked out a dress she had bought previously. And he said, okay, you're going to wear this dress on a date with me. And so that's exactly what happened. She describes it, I was a child that had got dressed up for dinner. And from then, things quickly intensified. He would constantly be texting her saying how he dreamt they had gotten married and how happy that she made him. She met with him and Russell asked, how many people have you slept with? And she told him that she was still a virgin. Alice described how she instantly noticed he got an erection. He picked her up saying, oh, my baby, you're like my little dolly, and cradled her in his arms. Looking back now, she feels as if she was groomed and controlled by Russell. He did this by trying to drive a wedge between her and her parents, which is very common for a groomer to do. He did this by teaching her how to lie to them in order to see her. Russell would message her late at night telling her to come over to see him, but she would say no because she's only 16, she still lives at home, her parents,
Yeah. Hear someone going out the door at midnight or
That's
whatever.
it,
Yeah.
She's not legally an adult.
No. Are you legally an adult? No.
No, you're 18 when you're legally
Right,
an adult.
okay.
So you can legally have sex.
Yes, the age of consent is, 16, isn't it?
But he would guide and direct her into exactly what to say and how to say it to her parents in order to be able to leave the house. She said, I didn't feel like I could advocate for myself in any way, and I also didn't feel like I could argue with a grown-up. Another way she describes how Russell allegedly controls her was once they had been seeing each other for a couple of months, he was running her a bath. He suddenly had to go out but said that she should stay in the bath for the entire time that he was gone. She described staying in the bath long enough for the water to go completely cold, but decided to get out, put a towel around her, but wait next to the bath so she could just jump straight back in when she heard him coming back.
Yeah.
And that's what she did.
Sounds a bit controlling.
Yes. Russell returned home and looked completely elated and pleased that she was still in the bath when he got home. This is classic controlling behaviour, asking her to do things that gradually get bigger and more controlling. But the more success he has with controlling her, the more extreme these acts will get. Which unfortunately happened one night. She was leaning against a headboard in bed and Russell came into the bedroom and forced his penis down her throat. choking her and making her unable to breathe. She was pushing him away but couldn't get him off, so she had to punch him in the stomach just to get him off of her. He fell backwards and she was crying, and according to Alice, he said, "I only wanted to see your mascara run anyway." This gave me a gross feeling in my stomach because Russell has a line in one of his comedy shows where he's talking about blowjobs and how he likes the ones that, this is gross, but the ones that you can see it in their throat. Yeah, the ones that make their mascara run a little bit.
Right.
He said that on TV.
Right.
It's part of his act. So was he using his past actions as a way of creating his comedic writings? Or was this always like a fantasy of his? I'm not sure kind of in the timeline when these things happened. But the fact that he's used the same line at a work, you know, as a comedic line,
right.
and then personally in a traumatic, obviously not for him, but in a traumatic incident.
Occurred, yeah.
It's fucking weird.
That is weird.
And the thing is, I think that's also another controlling move, because say if the incident happened first and then he said that later in a comedy show, he was probably thinking like, oh, if she sees this, that I'm saying this, she will know it's about her because I've said it to her. It's just like another way of like just controlling her.
Yeah, right.
Because he knows that it will affect her.
Yeah, well, yeah,
by hearing
yeah,
that.
absolutely, yes. Well,
and
it's a traumatic
hearing
event, isn't it?
people laugh.
Oh God, yeah. I mean, that would be
about it.
Quite
Because people were cracking up, saying,
sure.
"Oh yeah." Obviously, without knowing that he's actually said this whilst, you know, assaulting a 16-year-old girl.
Right. Yeah.
Alice then said that same night he assaulted her again. He jumped on top of her, held her mouth open, and started dribbling in her mouth, which is like your worst nightmare.
Yeah, it is my worst nightmare.
She was gagging and trying to fight him off again, but she couldn't. He then held her mouth shut, so she had to swallow his spit, which is just really fucked up. Alice didn't make it clear whether that was when things ended with Russell, but I'm hoping it was. A family member of Alice has confirmed the relationship with Russell at this time. Obviously, the family member might not have known the details, but they were aware of this relationship. During this time when he was with Alice, he started a radio show called The Russell Brand Show on BBC Radio 6 Music that he hosted with his long-term writing partner, Matt Morgan.
Okay.
It's been suggested in Russell's own autobiography that he had been having sex with competition winners in the toilets. Another breach of power, and apparently the station controller, Leslie Douglas, was aware of this happening, as I imagine this would have been noticed by everyone at work, because it was in a communal toilet space.
Right. Well, at least a few people anyway.
Yeah. But in spite of this, Russell got a lovely promotion to, at the time, the most popular radio station, BBC Radio 2, in November 2006. He got the 9 to 11 p.m. slot. To highlight just how popular Russell was in the UK, BBC announced that there was a 40% rise in listeners, which was largely attributed to Russell's show. He was getting over 400,000 listeners late at night, which is pretty impressive.
Yeah.
So in classic Russell Brand style, he is overtly sexual, flamboyant, and unfiltered on his show. Being live to thousands of people didn't stop him, and people loved him for it. During his show and throughout the day on other people's shows too, they would stop to update the listeners on current news stories or any breaking news that's just happened. After the unnamed newsreader had finished her segment on Russell's show, Russell made sexual comments about her live on air on several occasions. Quote, "She's erotic, that newsreader. Blimey, what a sex bomb that woman is. I'm going to go in that newsroom one of these days, and while she's reading, do you know what one of my fantasies is?" But is stopped by his co-host and is advised not to say it live on air. But finished with saying, "Because we're going to get under that desk and we're going to unleash hell on your thighs, woman." This is live on radio, which is mental. From the BBC as well, which is so scared to do anything, but it's just wild.
I mean, the fact that the Leslie Douglas person knew about it, I mean, it goes to show that the BBC hasn't necessarily
Well, yeah, the BBC's all corrupt. We know that.
Well, the BBC's got its history, hasn't it?
It's a pretty long history now.
Yeah.
Russell even went on to say that the newsreader wasn't happy and had told senior colleagues. However, nothing was done and his behaviour continued. He said live on radio, "The producer just told me that we've upset her. We say all these things about her like, oh yeah, she's doing the news. Imagine her just in her knickers." And that was said live on air.
Right.
About a woman who has said she isn't happy about what he said. And he's saying this whilst laughing about it.
Right. I mean, the thing is, it's all well and good if all parties were happy about it. You know, if she was happy to have jokes made at her expense about her.
I don't think that's appropriate on
I don't. No,
radio, to be honest.
No, I don't think it is.
It's just not professional.
It's especially not appropriate today. If it was happening today, I don't think it would last 5 seconds. But it's, I don't know, it's...
It really was a different time.
It really was.
It really was. And also, this was a late night slot, so technically children wouldn't be listening.
It's past the watershed.
Time, So there is that.
There's that element.
But
it's the...
She said she wasn't happy, and then he then carried on live and said...
Yeah.
Oh, she's not happy about it. We'd love to see her in her knickers or whatever. It's just like, and that was fine.
Yeah, like for the radio show at the time. Yeah, but it's quite problematic, isn't it?
Yeah.
I don't know. It's weird because I think as those like what he's saying, I can imagine old blokes laughing about it, finding it funny, right?
Yeah.
And maybe even older women laughing about it, finding it funny.
The thing is, people didn't care to know, or just never thought that deeply about what was actually being said. We thought like, that's so funny, but not thinking like, wait a minute, that woman wasn't happy about it. Like that's actually incredibly inappropriate. Yeah. Like people just didn't think like that.
I think there's obviously...
Or they chose not to think like that.
Maybe.
Ignorant.
Or even still, it's a radio show. It's you're separated physically from what's going on. Maybe, I don't know. So there's those elements to it too. I mean, if it was TV, slightly different because you can see them, but because it's radio, it's, I don't know. I feel like you can get away with a little bit more.
Gross things on TV as
well.
No,
I don't deny that.
Anyway, Russell was doing his radio show solo on the 26th of May 2007, and it was the week he was interviewing the Voldemort of BBC. He who shall not be named. But fuck it, it's Jimmy Savile.
Oh, right. Oh, yeah. Okay.
Hence the Voldemort.
Yeah.
One of the worst pieces of shit that's ever existed, who just really should just be erased from existence. I don't want to say his name, so I will just call him Voldemort.
Okay.
Voldemort wasn't there in person. He was on the phone with Russell, who was live on air.
It'd be very nice to meet you one day, Mr. Jimmy Savile, just,
If you've got a sister, you could meet me by bringing her along.
I mean, I haven't got any sisters,
I don't usually meet fellas, but if you've got a sister, that's okay.
I've got a personal assistant called Marsha, and part of her job description is that anyone I demand she greets, meets, massages, she has to do it. She's very attractive, Jimmy.
Well, that's a good start.
What kind of
start? You could send her along to do some research.
Would you like her to wear anything in particular, Sir Jimmy?
I'd actually prefer her to wear nothing.
Right, so you want Marsha, my assistant, to meet you naked? Okay, well that's not going to be a problem.
Nothing wrong with that.
Nothing wrong with that, Jimmy. It's just
the last time I spoke like this was to Father Christmas.
But yeah, so obviously this is before Voldemort or Jimmy Savile was found to be this horrific predator, rapist, paedophile. But knowing it now, it's fucking eerie.
Yeah.
And this was said live on radio once again. It's just fucking insane to me. And I wonder if they can tell that they're talking to an alleged fellow predator. Like, can they get that vibe? Can predators get the vibe about other predators? I wonder. I just wonder that.
I don't know. Maybe.
Like if
they sound so sort of chummy about it. Just like
Well, yeah, they'd get on
And the
like
way-
a house on
and the way
fucking
that-
fire, wouldn't they?
The way that he kind of was selling it to him almost.
Russell sounded giddy, like, oh
Yeah.
yeah, Jimmy, oh yeah. Oh.
That
Just,
is kind of
disgusting.
yeah, in a way. Yeah, I mean, I do feel like that's almost his demeanour. It's like a relatively sort of like he's always like chippo. He's like, whoo, wee, like But
Gross.
I know what you're saying. Yeah, it's weird.
But still, things keep getting worse, more chaotic and unhinged. Members of staff were starting to feel angered by Russell's behaviour. On one occasion, he exposed his genitals whilst urinating in a bottle. This is live on air. I don't know whether the action of the urinating was on air. If that makes sense.
To hear it.
But he was on radio at the time and he urinated in a bottle. It was declared live on air with Matt Morgan saying, "It's over there under your bottle of urine." It was revealed he did this in front of production and guests that were also in the studio, one of them being a minor. So it was already an incredibly inappropriate act to perform at work in front of colleagues live on air, but to also do it in front of strangers and a child. This guy has no boundaries whatsoever.
No. I mean, you've just got to think, if you were to do that at work yourself, you've lost your job.
That's just
If
it.
you
Like,
are
just,
a normal person, normal job, you've lost your job.
that's it.
On the spot.
And that's the point, is that he was never treated as a normal person. He was always put on a pedestal.
Yeah, sure.
Staff have said that they put complaints in to staff controller Leslie Douglas, but still no further action was taken. Shock.
Do you think? Money?
I don't know. I just
BBC's
think
weird,
think
isn't it?
she was just turning the other cheek.
Right.
He was bringing in the listeners.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. So I think she was just like,
It's working.
it's working, yeah. At the same time he's on the radio, he's also starring in big Hollywood movies. For example, in 2007, he was in Hawaii for 3 months filming Forgetting Sarah Marshall, which I'm sure a lot of people have heard of. So in order to still do his radio show, they would have had to pre-record the show ahead of it being aired at the 9 to 11 p.m. slot. It was a few months after the pissing in a bottle incident. Russell's own production company, Vanity Projects, was now working with the radio show. It was now the 16th of October 2008, and another British favourite chat show host, Jonathan Ross, was co-hosting with Russell Brand in a pre-recorded show. Do you know what I'm about to talk about?
I think so, yes.
Yeah. I hadn't heard of any of this.
I think I do know what you're going to say about Jonathan Ross. I won't spoil it, but
No spoilers, please. But I hadn't heard of any of this.
yeah, I would know this. I was kind of waiting for you to bring up Jonathan Ross's name at some point today. So.
Yeah. They were doing a segment where they decided to call Fawlty Towers actor Andrew Sachs and left 4 messages on his answering machine. For context, Russell has previously been in a sexual relationship with Andrew Sachs' granddaughter, so there is a connection there.
Yeah.
During the first message, Russell was joking about how they've both been in The Bill, an old police programme, but was interrupted by Jonathan shouting, "He fucked your granddaughter," then showing a shocked face and Russell giggling. The rest of the message and the following 3 consisted of them trying to apologise, but it was always turning to depravity, such as Russell singing, I'm not going to sing it, "It was consensual and she wasn't menstrual." And this is to her grandfather.
Yeah.
And Ross asking Andrew to marry him. So obviously this show was pre-recorded, like I said. So that's lucky because, it's pre-recorded. They can edit it out. It will never be shown to the public. It will never happen.
But did they?
But did they?
Because I remember hearing all about this.
Yes. So nobody at the BBC or Russell's production team even listened to the show.
Really?
They
shit, isn't
just broadcast it, and that was it.
Wow. That is some lazy...
They just released it.
That's lazy.
Shortly before this was released, the Mail on Sunday informed Russell that they would be running a story about the messages. So Russell decided during his live show he would apologise to Andrew Sachs, but decided to devote the majority of the show to ridicule the Daily Mail for its support of Nazism in the lead up to World War II. Quote, "What's worse, leaving a swear word on Andrew Sachs' answer phone or tactily supporting Adolf Hitler when he took charge of the Third Reich?" This is a tactic that Russell still uses now, and even used in his recent TikTok denying these allegations against him. He's a clever guy that will know that he'll know like historical negative things about a person, a business, or a society, and will always have that to throw back in their face if they ever say anything negative about him. It's another way of controlling the situation, when in reality the Daily Mail supporting the Nazis over 100 years ago has nothing to do with the fact that he disrespected someone live on a reputable radio station, and he's being called out for it.
Yeah,
It's just a childish move.
It is. It's throwing something out there that is conceivably worse.
Yeah.
Yes, but trying to it's sort of covering your tracks almost, isn't it?
Absolutely. It's,
in a way.
Well, you've done something a lot worse than me, so
I must
you're
be
the bad guy, not me. Attitude.
Yeah.
But
which is just a lack of taking accountability for your own actions, isn't it?
Yeah, and once again, he is controlling the narrative by talking about it before it's coming out.
Yes, yeah,
It's
sure.
another example of that, of controlling the narrative. But either way, Russell was suspended from the show and then quickly fired. Finally. How was he not fired before this? I do not know. Ofcom did an investigation into the incident that was called Saxgate, and it gained 44,000 complaints. They said there was a lack of clarity about who at the BBC had hands-on editorial oversight of the series. Leslie Douglas was, she also resigned. Good. Bye, bitch. Matt Morgan commented on the allegations. "I stopped working with Russell Brand several years ago. During the time I worked with him, I was never aware of any allegations of serious sexual misconduct against him. I absolutely condemn all forms of mistreatment of women. Looking back on the time I spent working on radio at the BBC, I am regretful to learn that a show I was part of made colleagues uncomfortable at times." So in my opinion, this is a bullshit statement.
All right, okay.
He was probably told by his management or whatever that he had to say something
I mean, yeah,
about this.
Maybe.
If he has management, I don't know.
Hopefully, though. I mean, I'd give it the benefit of the doubt that at least he's apologising for poor behaviour. But whether there's anything in it, whether there's anything in it, sure, I don't deny.
So the fact that he's saying he was never aware of any allegations of serious sexual misconduct,
which
that's
seems
bullshit.
Surprising, yeah.
He talked about it live on air.
Right, okay.
And if he's his big, honest, open self, of course he mentioned it, but he would have found it funny. He would have done it in a joking manner. You know, and the fact that, you know, he's talking about making colleagues uncomfortable at times.
I mean, he would have been aware of...
It's more than them feeling uncomfortable.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And then there's just absolutely no mention of the victims.
No, sure, okay.
Whatsoever. He just completely bypasses the victims.
Well, I suppose he doesn't necessarily want, at that point in time, victims probably wasn't the word being used, whereas it is now.
No,
today.
this is...
Oh, this is a statement as of... a few days, like
this is
recent.
in the documentary.
Oh, sorry, right, okay.
About the allegations that are coming out
now
in the documentary. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Right. Okay. Fair enough.
I just don't. I don't trust that statement. I think it's bullshit. To be honest.
Okay. Yeah, that might just be a get the heat off my back.
He's just claiming ignorance, and that is a massive thing that happens within these sexual assault cases within celebrity culture. Yeah. And also, unfortunately, a lot of men do it as well, majoritively. But don't worry, Russell always bounces back. By 2010, Russell had moved to the US and had transformed into a big Hollywood A-lister, appearing in films with big names such as Helen Mirren, Paul Rudd, Jonah Hill, and Mila Kunis. And in 2010, he got married for the first time to Katy Perry, the pop singer, but divorced in 2012. Famously, Russell texted Katy on New Year's Eve, minutes before she was going on stage, saying that their marriage is over.
Oh.
It's in her documentary.
Blimey.
She has never properly commented on her marriage with Russell, but she has referred to him as very controlling. That's it. And for that to be one of the only things you say about the marriage, I think says a lot.
Mm.
In the same year he got divorced is the same year he ruined another woman's life. This next part was told by the third victim, Nadia, which isn't her real name. And I have to say again, this is all still alleged information. It has not officially been confirmed. In 2012, I'm assuming it was LA. It's definitely in America. Russell had just started production on his new TV show called Brand X with Russell Brand. In an after party, Russell made a beeline for her, immediately kissed her and got her number. That is a move that I've seen endlessly that Russell Brand does on film, on being recorded.
Right.
He will be being interviewed by women, just around women, and he will just kiss them.
On the lips?
Yeah. It's wild.
It's a bit much.
Wild.
Yeah.
They slept together that night as well. He asked whether to wear a condom or not, to which she replied, definitely yes, and he did. So that was all consensual.
Mm-hmm.
On the 1st of July 2012, Russell called her and said he's had a bad day and to please come over. She said no, but he persisted. Please come over and just cuddle me. So she gave in and went over. The door was unlocked, so she went straight inside. He ran out of the bedroom completely naked, immediately kissing her, which she enjoyed at first, but then something changed. He pushed her up against a wall and she exclaimed, "What are you doing?" Russell says, "I have a friend here and I want you to come into the bedroom," but she refused. Nadia tries to get away from him. She moves over to another wall where she describes this big painting is hanging, and her bag that she's still holding at the time is stuck on the frame somehow. I don't understand, but it's stuck, and so she's kind of stuck there. Russell comes over forcibly and is moving her underwear to the side. She's telling him to get off, but he ignores her. She describes him having a glazed look in his eyes. He rapes her and she pushes him off. He asks if she's okay. Obviously she's not. Tells him to get away from her, but he tries to block the door. She escapes out of the house and in a daze, she drives home. Russell texts Nadia, quote, "I'm sorry, that was crazy and selfish. I hope you can forgive me. I know that you're a lovely person. Kiss." Journalists for the documentary have confirmed this message did come from Russell Brand's phone.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's alleged, but he's apologised for something.
That message is real
Factual.
and it's factual. So
Right.
he's apologised for doing something crazy and selfish and wants her to forgive him. But that's very vague still, but you know.
Yeah.
Nadia replied the next morning, quote, "You scared the shit out of me. You're right, I am a lovely person, and for you to take advantage of me like that is unacceptable. You have a problem. You need help. It's dangerous that you think you can get your own way all the time. Do you know how scary you are when that glaze comes over you? When a girl says no, it means no. Do I have to go and get myself tested? Last time you asked me condom or no condom. When I say condom, that doesn't mean it's optional. You don't have the best reputation. I pride myself on being safe and trying to make the right decisions. Obviously that was a bad one. I'm so disappointed." Nadia went to a rape treatment centre, had tests, was given antibiotics and given an emergency contraceptive pill. They took her underwear and samples and she gave a detailed account of the incident, but decided not to go to the police because she was scared of his celebrity status, which is super duper common.
Yeah.
But because she did those things at the treatment centre, that's all on file.
Yeah, okay.
So that's just more evidence just to back up at least her story.
Sure. Well, yeah, it's all too
You know.
often that women that come forward about these things get brushed under a carpet and forgotten about, or at least, what's the word? Just like everyone's told to not believe these people when they come forward with these things, to doubt them,
Especially when it's famous people, like,
yes,
are they saying
absolutely.
this for money? That's everyone's first response.
It does tend to be. And obviously there does have to be, well, like lawfully, it has to be innocent until proven guilty, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
But it does look like things are stacking up against him at this stage.
There's more, so.
Yeah.
If you think that now, then yeah. I don't have an exact date on this next story. It was just described as months later from Nadia's incident. We are going straight into our fourth victim's alleged story. This is Phoebe's experience, obviously not the real name. She met Russell in an AA meeting, a safe place for vulnerable people with addiction issues, which Russell does have. He did his usual dance of pursuing her straight away, sleeping with her consensually, and then selling her the dream, telling her how amazing she is, she's the greatest thing that's ever lived, wants to have her babies, etc. Classic grooming tactic. Very similar to how he acted with Alice. Weeks later, Russell calls her and asks her to work with him. She was thrilled by this as she thought this was her big break, and she immediately took the job and it was going well. They did a lot of stuff together professionally, and they became what she thought was good friends. She describes how everything revolved around his sexual behaviour with women. Quote, "I've never seen any man have this much power and manipulation over women. Like I watched this guy pull women out of the audience, kicking us out of his dressing room and fucking them in his dressing room. Just revolving door of women every day. I mean 5+ women a day. Just absolute mayhem."
Jeez.
Yeah.
Surprised he's still functional.
Well, I don't know, when you're an addict, I guess.
Blimey.
I don't know how he does it. One day, she was working at his house. They were running late for a show, so they quickly left, and she left her belongings behind, thinking she'll just grab them at the end of the day. Like, no big deal. When they finally got back home, Phoebe, Russell, and Russell's assistant were there. She was grabbing her things when she suddenly became very aware that the assistant had left and gone home, leaving her alone with Russell. Phoebe describes Russell coming into the room she was in, either in his underwear, sound familiar, or completely naked. But he ended up naked at some point, and he was almost like chasing her around. Quote, "I was almost laughing because I was like, there's no way this is happening. But it got a little more aggressive, and I realised this is not a joke. This is really serious. I went to walk back out, and the door had been locked. He grabbed me and got me on the bed. I was fully clothed, and he was naked, and he held me down. And he was aggressively trying to fuck me, and I saw something come over his eyes. I swear to God, like black. His eyes had no more colour. They were black. Like a different person entered his body. I was screaming and I was like, stop, you're my friend. I love you. Please don't do this. I don't want to do this. I think he had his hands down my trousers and I was screaming so hard and fighting so hard. Something snapped and he heard me and he got off me and got up and was like, what the fuck? And he flipped the fuck out on me and said, fuck you. And I ran out. When Phoebe was outside running to her car, Russell's US colleagues had arrived for a meeting that was scheduled and were standing in his driveway. She had run out barefoot, looking like an absolute mess, and they didn't say anything, and she left. Years later, she described how she ran into one of these colleagues, and they said, I've never forgiven myself for not running into the house to save you. I heard you screaming, and I didn't know what to do. We were all so scared of him, and I didn't do anything, and I'm sorry.
Blimey.
How horrible is that? That makes the story even so much worse, is that there was a group of people outside hearing her screaming.
And were so afraid of him
and
that
she
they didn't
do
act.
anything. I just think that gives me goosebumps. It's so horrific. 3 people confirmed Phoebe told them she was sexually assaulted by Russell. He starts calling her being very apologetic. I didn't mean to, blah, blah. But because she works with Russell, she had to return to set. She assumes Russell heard that she had told a friend of hers about what had happened. So he pulls her into a bathroom and turned the tap on so no one could hear and said something like, "Sexual assault is a serious allegation, and if you're fucking serious, I need to know because you'll be hearing from my lawyer." This incident nearly made Phoebe relapse. She didn't feel safe and she couldn't go to meetings in case he was there. She never heard or saw from him again.
Right.
That's a horrific one. I hate that.
Yeah, no, it's quite a horrible story.
Just hope she's okay now. A year later, for the first time, a sexual assault allegation came to light in the media and was made public by an ex-girlfriend of Russell's. Her name's Jordan Martin. She published a book under a thinly veiled pseudonym and revealed intimate details of their relationship, which she says is controlling and manipulative. It describes a time where he got angry and sexually assaulted her. Quote, "He slides his hands down the front of my low-hanging jeans into her underwear and forces a finger inside of her. She is not ready for his intrusion, nor does she find it sensual or pleasant. She is not sure if he intends it to be either." Jordan also told her story to the Mail on Sunday, but when the newspaper was printed, the sexual assault reference had been removed, which she believes the newspaper was asked to remove it. Jordan didn't want to take part in the documentary, but she still stands by her claims. There's a bit of a theme as well with, you'll hear more of it coming up, but references to Russell's behaviour being removed from the public.
Yeah. I imagine that's a tactic that's been used for, a long time, really, by other people. Yeah.
You just kind of wouldn't think papers would. You'd think, like, what's juicy goss?
Well,
I'm
yeah,
gonna
but
fucking print it. I don't give a shit. But
if they can't legally back it up, then they could get sued for defamation, can't they?
Yeah, and it was implied that, that was what happened, basically. In 2014, 8 years after Russell's relationship with Alice, she was now working at Channel 4 in television. She was in a meeting and they were discussing a new TV show and the potential host candidates, one of them being Russell Brand, who was a frontrunner. A couple of people had reservations because allegations had been made of him being inappropriate with staff members that had come to light. The solution that was offered in order to have Russell Brand as the host was that they would just remove all female staff off of the crew completely. And if there was women there, they would never be left alone with him.
Right.
Alice was in disbelief. They were still willing to hire him and would rather just not have any women on the team, as if that would have stopped him anyway. Alice said only one commissioning editor in the room strongly disagreed to what had been suggested. Just one.
Out of how many?
It's not disclosed,
known.
But it would have been more than two people.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Russell wasn't hired for the new TV show in 2014, but that didn't stop all the opportunities in the years that followed. In 2020, Alice actually contacted Russell's literary offices about her experience with him when she was 16 years old. She called and asked to speak with his agent. They asked what it was regarding. Her response was, "Well, it's regarding Russell Brand being a sex offender." And she was put straight through. Good for her. Alice wanted his agent to be fully aware of what he had done, and the response was, "Well, he's away on a wellness retreat at the moment. I'll contact him and we'll have another phone call later."
Okay.
Russell's lawyer immediately emailed her and was very aggressive, stating clearly how he thought she was after money and implied it was almost like blackmail.
Right.
She had never mentioned money at any point, and obviously nothing came of this. She
didn't chase it up.
She never got a call back. Nothing ever.
Right. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So it wasn't that she was scared away from it necessarily, or
that
was
wasn't mentioned. She didn't say she was.
Right.
But
nothing more came from
nothing more happened.
Brand's side of things.
No more interactions happened.
Yeah. Okay.
Journalists for the documentary asked other comedians and agents who worked in the industry at the same time as Russell, or could corroborate anyone else, etc. Only one person stepped forward to speak on camera. Daniel Sloss is a comedian and has been performing since 2003. I hadn't heard of him,
No.
to be honest, but he's my new favourite comedian, because well done him. He admits to feeling scared to sit and speak about what he has heard, even though there are basically no consequences for him speaking out. So what do people who have suffered and been subject to these alleged behaviours, how must they feel coming forward? Quote, I couldn't not say something, which is amazing because most people don't. When Daniel started comedy shows, Russell was already a big name in the industry. Quote, there were many stories. It wasn't just going from one person or one group of people. You know, it was very different incidents over different years and of varying degrees of severity. He discloses that there are groups that are set up by female comedians where they warn each other of other comedians, agents, people in the industry who to avoid. Quote,
It's a bit gross that needs to be a thing, isn't it, really? But anyway.
Quote, I know for many, many years that women have been warning each other about Russell. These WhatsApp groups have been confirmed by the journalist.
Yeah.
Daniel went on to say how comedians would perform a pre-recorded show and would make jokes about Russell Brand being a predator. And they would always be cut from the show and asked not to say the jokes anymore. So it's interesting that you kind of said like, oh, that's crazy that women had to do that. To
Yeah,
make the
well,
jokes.
it's just sad, really, isn't it? In general.
Whereas-
But I'm sure it happens in other cases.
Yeah,
it's
that-
not just Russell Brand.
That did not surprise me in the slightest that women have had to make these groups.
It doesn't necessarily surprise me. It just upsets me. It's just it's just shit that has to be a thing.
Yeah, I think, it's just an interesting response because that, to me, is kind of like, yeah,
Yeah, right.
Like
that's the
that's-
norm almost.
that's just like, yeah, I'm not,
What you
I'm
would
just
expect.
like, yeah, I'm just like, yeah, okay, yeah, they had to do that,
Yeah.
you know. I've heard several women comedians say externally to this documentary how sexual assault is rife within the industry. I just find it horrifying how it's just known within the industry who to avoid, but nothing ever happens. Like, people know about it, they will talk about it at parties,
Yeah, right.
you know, but nothing can be done because it's too scary to go through this because there's power involved and they're men, you know. And
Yeah, right. Well, and I mean, women on the comedy circuit have historically been, you know, at a lower level.
It still is. Like,
Yeah, it still
on
is,
a
yeah.
chat show, comedy panel, you know, there'll be one token woman on there
Yeah.
amongst like 5 other men or 4
Yeah.
other men.
And I mean, I do think that's gotten better,
somewhat.
but it's, you know, 10 years ago, all of those panel shows would have 99% been men, you know?
Yeah.
So, you know, you'd be setting your own career on fire if you went after someone like Russell Brand, who's got the power to shut you up, shut you down.
He's got the money
You
as
know.
well.
Yeah, well, exactly. Yeah. So, you know, I can understand why they can't feel like they can sort of make accusations or, you know, chase a.
Yeah. There's still a
Chase it.
hierarchy within the industry.
Yeah, sure.
And he was, you know, one of the top.
Yeah.
Neither the BBC or Channel 4 confirm whether or not they have ever received complaints about Russell Brand's sexual misconduct, but the Metropolitan Police came out after the documentary aired and said that they had received a sexual assault allegation against Russell back in 2003.
All right. Fine.
So even
Okay.
earlier than all of this.
Yeah.
But nothing more about this has been disclosed yet, because obviously they're having to investigate that now after
Right.
all these other allegations have come out. So I'm sure we'll hear more about it at some point. Yeah, so we've kind of finished the information from the documentary, most of it anyway. Mm-hmm. And at the end of the documentary, you know, there was contact information if anyone wants to come forward with
Yeah.
any more allegations or any
Knows
information
anything, yeah, sure.
with Russell. And they have received several more allegations that they are going through to confirm, obviously, whether they're accurate or not. People, unfortunately, are weird and will say that they have when they haven't.
Yeah.
I don't understand the psychology behind that. People just want attention. It's weird. So they're obviously going to confirm more as they go. And they have for a couple. So one that has come out within the past few days is by a woman who is now being called Olivia. She is claiming that Russell exposed himself to her when he was in LA in 2008. He was pre-recording his show for the Russell Brand show for Radio 2. She was working in the same building as the BBC, and she answered the door to Russell and his team to come in and record. She was walking to the toilet and realised Russell was following behind her. Olivia claims Russell said something along the lines of, "I'm going to have sex with you," or "I want to have sex with you." And she obviously refused. He then showed her his genitals, and she said, "No, no, no." Russell then put his genitals away when the toilet door was knocked on with someone saying, "Russell, you are wanted in the radio studio. Olivia felt absolutely disgusted and messaged a fellow BBC colleague about what had happened. The colleague said he knew what had happened because Russell was talking about it in the studio. Olivia tracked down the recorded episode when she had heard about these allegations coming out. The radio episode that aired on the 21st of June 2008, it featured an exchange between Russell and his co-host Matt Morgan, who said, "It's been 25 minutes since he showed his willy to a lady." And that was recorded and then aired. And you can hear Russell laughing in the background. And this is Matt Morgan, who says that he was unaware of any sexual misconduct, just FYI. Fucking idiot. Fucking idiot. Olivia,
I take back what I said about him earlier.
Yeah. Olivia never made a complaint to the BBC about what happened, but BBC management was informed about the incident in 2019, but no formal action took place. Good job, BBC.
Yeah.
Matt Morgan again commented more recently, denying he was not aware until now of the nature of this encounter. Shut up. Again, in my opinion, what a load of bullshit. He knew what Russell was like and he didn't care and probably thought it was just as funny as Russell did. Ugh. Twat.
No, I can, yeah. Carry on.
Sky News reported a woman they've named Sarah.
They're going to run out of names soon.
I know, literally. She reported of when she met Russell on a flight. He was friendly and charming, so accepted his invitation to grab breakfast and go on a walk. However, once they were alone in Russell's limo, his behaviour changed. Quote, "He wasn't friendly and charming in the limo. He was aggressive, and I felt very vulnerable and intimidated. Whilst they were in the car, Russell was forcing himself on her and ripped holes in her tights. She initially denied his advances, causing the limo driver to turn around, but were eventually driven to Russell's house, where they had sex. Sarah said, "I mean, it was consensual. I didn't say no, but I feel like there's a fine line between being forced and being coerced. You know, like being in a situation where the only way out is just to get it over and done with and leave." So in my opinion, that still sounds like a rape to me.
I mean,
she says it was somewhat consensual, but the fact that the only way to get out of that situation is to just get it done so she can leave, that's not okay.
No, it's definitely not okay.
And it's not any shade on Sarah, like she felt she had no other choice.
Yeah,
and
right.
And possibly the safest option
was
for her just to ride the wave, get it done as quick as possible.
Yeah.
And just get out of there. However, when she went to leave, Russell refused to get her a taxi until she performed oral sex on him.
Right.
So it's not confirmed whether she did that act or not, but that's that.
Jeez. It's pretty gross.
Yeah. Since around 2019, Russell has stepped away from TV and has amassed around 28 million followers over all his social media platforms and has become more spiritual, discussing conspiracy theories that have become more and more outlandish as time has gone on, and often takes aim at the mainstream media. He also gives advice on relationships and addiction, and has connections with women's rights charities like Trevi, who have now ended its association with Russell, obviously. It's been suggested that he stepped away from TV, especially in the UK, because nobody in the industry was willing to work with him anymore. But that's alleged.
Sure.
Catherine Ryan, a comedian from Canada who is very popular in the UK, has come to the forefront during a lot of these Russell Brand allegations, as it's been revealed that Russell and Catherine worked together when filming a new TV show for Comedy Central called Roast Battle in 2018. Multiple sources confirm that during filming, which is pre-recorded, Catherine referred to Russell several times as a sexual predator. This made Russell furious, and he quit the show after only 6 episodes. And once again, these exchanges were never aired on TV.
What do you mean?
They cut them out of the show.
Her
making
calling
those jokes.
him.
Yeah.
Oh, right, I see.
Catherine confirmed this incident during an episode of Backstage with Catherine Ryan in 2022, where she describes calling out a co-star on a TV set for sexual abuse. She obviously never named the person she was talking about, but was later asked about it in an interview with everyone's favourite documentary maker, Louis Theroux, which we watched together. In an episode of Louis Theroux interviews, Catherine revealed how it is an open secret within the industry that this person is a sexual predator, and everyone knows it. Quote, "Lots of people have tried to nail this person down for their alleged crimes, and and in front of loads of people in the format of the show, said to this person's face that they were a predator again and again." Louis asked if they kept it in the show. Catherine shook her head, no. She's never revealed who she was talking about. She said it's a litigious minefield because the person has very good lawyers. So now putting 2 and 2 together, it seems very likely that she was talking about Russell Brand.
Yeah.
Which is interesting because obviously we watched it and it was a bit like, well, who the fuck is she talking about?
Well, yeah.
And no one obviously really came to mind, but, you know, I wouldn't have thought it was Russell Brand just because he's not really on my radar, to be honest, anymore, because he's just doing all his weird conspiracy stuff. Dannii Minogue, Kylie Minogue's sister, who we mentioned earlier, Australian pop star, did an interview with The Mirror back in 2006 talking about Russell Brand. It was about her appearance on his TV show, One Leicester Square. She said, "He is completely crazy and a bit of a vile predator. I certainly don't think he has cured his sex addiction, that's for sure. He wouldn't take no for an answer. He always goes that step too far. Never quite far enough away to slap his face, but usually too far." So what went on there, I have no idea between them two. But Russell did something to Dannii in a forcible manner. That's pretty clear.
Let's just legally rephrase that.
What did I say?
You said Russell did something to Dannii.
Well, yeah, my
That's
opinion.
clear. Okay, in your opinion, fine.
From what she
I would
said,
agree. Yeah, I would agree in terms of how that sounds.
he wouldn't take no for an answer.
that
A
sounds-
vile predator.
Yeah, I mean, all of those words
Jesus Christ.
would lead you towards a particular way of thinking, for sure.
And it was, enough for her to make, to say this publicly and call him a predator. So good for her. But obviously nothing came from it. They probably thought it was funny. That's my opinion again.
Yeah, alleged.
Nish Kumar, another very popular British comedian that we like. We think he's very funny. On his podcast that he co-hosts with a journalist called Coco Khan, which is a great name, Pod Save the UK, which is a good name as well. They discuss the allegations against Russell Brand. He recalls first hearing about them in mid-2017. An incident happened on a TV show called Roast Battle, where jokes were made referencing Russell being an abuser and were later removed from the broadcast. Quote, that obviously happened on a studio floor. So from that moment onwards, it was common knowledge within comedy that there were several allegations about Russell Brand specifically relating to sexual assault. The story that I had heard was relating to a sexual assault. It was not covered in the documentary. It was a very specific and serious allegation. I was not aware of any of the stories in the documentary. I was surprised watching it how far back that it has gone. So it is possible that there are more allegations to come.
Right.
So he confirms Catherine Ryan's story of the roast battle.
Sure.
That's been confirmed now by a few people.
Yeah.
And that this was also common knowledge amongst comedians and people within the industry.
I mean, I'll put out a note there of him going into doing conspiracy, or like, he went onto YouTube and started doing stuff that was against the grain in terms of like the standard media, news media, and he's built. I think he's obviously recognised this opportunity out there, which other people like Andrew Tate and other characters like that, where by creating controversy or talking about very controversial things, you can build yourself a really strong following that will support you through thick and thin. Andrew Tate's got a huge following, even still.
Do we have to talk about him?
Well, we'll probably have to at some point.
Yeah,
but
he gets
but
mentioned.
he's still got a huge loyal following.
Well,
and Russell Brand does as well. He's still got a huge loyal following.
It's because with people like that create these conspiracy theories and this following of conspiracy theorists, they obviously, what they talk about is, basically putting doubt into every fraction of the world, apart from themselves.
Yes, yeah.
So you doubt everything and everyone else, but not them, because they're telling you the truth.
Yes, exactly, yeah. Exactly.
They're the truth givers, so they would never do anything wrong, ever.
No.
But everyone else, do not trust them.
No. Yeah.
Especially when they say shit about me.
Yeah, exactly. Well, the thing is, it gives them a platform to say, you already don't trust those people, or at least you already doubt those people.
Yeah.
So you better doubt them now that they're shitting on me. And I found it interesting that I saw it. I didn't read it. I really only just saw a headline, but it was about Nigel Farage talking about how Russell Brand is being silenced by the mainstream media, and obviously he's on a slightly obscure opinion-based news platform that is not mainstream media. So it's interesting to see where these kind of narratives are leading, and also which news broadcasters are, how they are positioning themselves. I think is an interesting topic in itself. But Talk TV and GB News,
Yeah, well, we kind of talk a bit more about that later on. But yeah, back to their podcast.
Yeah.
So they also go on to have an interesting discussion about whether Russell Brand turned to conspiracism in order to defend himself from further allegations. As he said in his first video relating to the allegations that the media are out to get him. And that's what he said multiple times over the past few years. Like, this isn't the first time he's saying the media are out to get him.
Yeah.
Russell is a smart guy, and this kind of premeditation of trying to not get caught in the future doesn't surprise me. Coco Khan says, "Doesn't surprise me that someone who allegedly abused their power sees abuses of power everywhere. If you've been protected by institutions, no wonder you think that other institutions are being protected too."
Right.
I think that's a really interesting way of putting that.
That's a fair point.
Because it's so true. Like, when you get something or have something, you then will start noticing it more if other people have it as well.
I think it stands out to you slightly more because it's more recognisable in your in your head, in the way you're perceiving the world.
If it's on the forefront of your brain, then you'll notice it more. Obviously.
Yeah, absolutely.
YouTube has suspended Russell from making money off of them. And the rest of his tour in the UK has been postponed. BBC, Channel 4 and the production firm Banerjee have launched investigations into his behaviour throughout the years he worked on their shows, and has removed all previous shows he was a part of from their streaming websites. Brands such as HelloFresh, ASOS and Burger King have pulled their adverts from the channel Russell Brand publishes videos on. He reportedly was making around 27k a month through these ads and stuff, so I bet that's reduced considerably now. What a shame. And of course, since the news broke of these allegations, people have come to defend Russell. People like Andrew Tate, who we just talked about earlier. Fucking twat. Elon Musk, who I don't like, personally. But no one should be that rich. Full stop.
No, I'm not a fanboy.
He's a twat. Just
Obscure man, very obscure man, and probably has done some obscure things, but that's... Anyway.
I don't trust him. No one should be that rich. I bet he's done loads of horrific things, in my opinion. Jessica Sutter, some like irrelevant ex-Pussycat doll. Hannah Kinsella, who was from the Real Housewives of Cheshire. Again, irrelevant. It's incredibly disappointing that women are openly supporting him, I will say. Honestly, I expect it from men.
Sure.
It's not a surprise. But to not stand by women when you are a woman and to stand by victims, I find incredibly upsetting. Andrew Tate, another alleged sexual predator, commented on Russell's latest video with a "Welcome to the club" and a derogative image below it. Shock. And apparently he held an emergency meeting to discuss what's happening to Russell Brand. Fuck off.
Can you imagine seeing Russell Brand and Andrew Tate on the same screen?
They
I'm
probably
sure
are friends.
It's probably already
They probably
happened,
swap tips.
They might do, yeah.
A former Fox News host, so you know they're great, Tucker Carlson. Heard of him?
Yeah.
I hadn't. I really try and avoid knowing any of these people.
Plenty about him.
Suggested that drug companies were linked to the allegations. Whatever that fucking means, or that's got anything to do with it.
It's because the Americans don't like pharmaceutical, or there is a...
Well, they love it, and then...
It's another conspiracy. It's another conspiracy way of defending yourself, so...
Right-wing conspiracy theorist Alex Jones.
Yeah.
You heard of him as well?
Yeah, I know him, yeah.
I haven't. Said Russell was getting targeted because he's come out against globalists and Big Pharma, which, again, makes no fucking sense. And just to clarify, Alex Jones is the guy that said the Sandy Hook shooting was a hoax. So, good fucking guy.
Just to note, all of these people fall into a particular group.
Yeah, that's my point.
Right,
is that they're all fucking idiots that are all conspiracy theorists.
Yes.
That are all going in to defend him. But yeah, Alex Jones, he now has to pay nearly $1.5 billion in damages to the families of Sandy Hook. So good job.
Wow. I mean, thing is, he's
never going to pay that, but...
No, of course not.
At least it was proven that,
yes,
shut the fuck up next time.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm riled up.
I can't. I mean, no, he's a gross human being.
I don't want to talk about him anymore. I don't want to give him any more airtime.
No,
I don't want to give any of them any more airtime.
Okay, well, fine. But I just think it's it's interesting. Russell Brand has fallen into this group of people. Of those people, he's just another character in this circle of weird right wing, nut jobs, conspiracy nut jobs. Yeah. And Russell Brand's following would have been considerably more left wing previously. I would have thought.
Yeah, I would have thought that too. Yeah, and I would have thought that too.
And people, I don't know.
But I think he was losing his backing in the UK. He obviously wasn't on TV anymore.
No,
he wasn't getting as much publicity in a sense of, being on TV, being on radio.
Yeah,
people loving him. He needed to find a new group of people.
Yeah.
He needed to find a new group to then still gain that power.
Sure.
Have that power.
Well, have an audience, yeah.
Have an audience that will just love him endlessly.
Lap it up, yeah. I mean, he's got the charisma to do it, hasn't he? Obviously he knows he has. He's been on TV for so long.
Oh yeah.
He's perfectly capable of conducting a popular YouTube channel.
That's it.
Or, whatever.
So obviously a great bunch of people are supporting him, and of course he has fans who believe all the conspiracy stuff and will just follow him to the death for some bizarre reason I will never understand. More and more stuff will continue to come out against Russell, but no charges have been filed against him yet, and maybe they never will, but hopefully they will in the near future. But it's a tricky situation when it comes to sexual assault. Of course, Russell has and will forever deny all allegations. They always do. So it doesn't fucking matter.
Of course they do.
They always do. He's never going to be like, oh yeah, whoops. He's never going to admit it, even if he does get charged and arrested.
Well, he might if he gets charged and arrested, but...
No, he won't. He's a narcissist. I kind of wonder whether this will be like a new wave of Me Too, but in the comedian industry rather than like the film kind of industry, because I've been hearing some rumblings of other comedians out there. I'm not going to say names.
No.
I'll tell you afterwards. But I'm hearing some other things. Not anything like specific as Russell Brand, but I've been hearing names. I'll just say that. So I wouldn't be surprised if more comedians kind of start popping up, getting investigated. Because that's the thing. It's like, well, if he was kind of acting this overtly sexual, like there's bound to be others that have been acting that way as well. So maybe we should look into them and see. Maybe But I just want to make it very, very clear to everyone that I stand by victims always, and I don't care what people say. So, and nothing will change that.
No.
So I stand by them. I stand by the women. I stand by the victims, and I hope that they are doing okay now, doing better, that they've found help and support that they need. And if you were a victim and you can't come forward because you don't feel like you can, that's okay. You don't have to. Basically, don't feel like you have to, because you.
Oh, well, unless you want to. That's what
I'm saying. If you don't feel like you can.
Yeah, of course.
If you feel pressured to or anything like that, because other people are, you don't have to. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Just do what you think's right for you. Just make sure you're happy and healthy. That's it, really. Because nothing else matters.
No.
So, that's it. That's the horrible piece of shit, Russell Brand.
It's an interesting situation that you have a large amount of these sort of like conspiracy YouTubery online media personalities like Andrew Tate, Alex Jones, Nick Fuentes as well.
Can we not name them all? Because I just hate them all.
Okay, fine. But there's this, seems to be like a large group of mostly men, if not almost entirely men.
Shock.
There are some women actually. That
I know,
I've seen, anyway.
hate that.
But
letting us down, women.
Yeah, but there's a large group, and they're mostly men, and they seem to be they have a very flagrant disregard for women's
Just women,
rights.
full stop.
Well, actually, yeah, women full
Women
stop.
full stop.
Yeah, because they're always up on there trying to disprove, proven social sort of discrepancies, whatever, or differences like the gender pay gap and things like that. I don't really know where I was going with that, but there's a weird group of men online that are
a lot of men.
Yeah, that are, and their followers. I mean, their followers, make
They're
up
even
for that.
scarier.
In a way, yeah.
I mean, the fact that as well, I think like the day after or 2 days after this documentary came out, he had a tour gig performing in the UK. I don't know where, maybe Scotland?
I think it was London. I thought it was
London.
London.
It was London, yeah. It was like the Global Theatre or something.
Globe Theatre, yeah.
And it was sold out, obviously, before. It would have sold out before.
Yeah.
And it was still packed.
Yeah.
And
2 days after the thing.
I think it was like a day or 2 days after.
Yeah.
So, I mean, like 90% of people have watched it by that point. And, everyone was cheering, as if nothing had happened. So we'll see, basically. I mean, he's not touring anymore because
of all this.
that's been postponed or hopefully just cancelled full stop. But yeah. That's it. That's all the allegations currently that are out. There's going to be more and more and more probably. So if it's amasses to anything more, maybe we'll do another part later down the line. But that was a lot of information. Sorry, it was so graphic, some of it. But I just feel like it's the victim's stories and they should be heard, how they said it, which is why I did a lot of quotes. And it just truly shows how horrible he is, basically.
Yeah.
And how can they not be believed? It's baffling. What, a woman just doesn't think like, oh, how am I going to think of an awful rape story to tell?
I mean, yeah, there's that.
It's not normal.
There's that for one, and I think the thing that, you know, if you're sitting there thinking, oh, you know, I don't, yeah, maybe these women are in it for the money. I think you have to really think, why would
Stupid.
One, you've got people corroborating anyway. You know, for example, like the texts and things like that, you've got that.
Yeah.
That's there.
The things that they could confirm, they did. Yeah,
Yeah, exactly, and where that lines up with sometimes what he said himself. Mm-hmm. You know, that's obscure, and it seems like that kind of fits together.
But it's all circumstantial, unfortunately.
Yeah, it is circumstantial. But I just think it's like, I don't know. I just think it's a bit ridiculous for people to outright not believe.
Like their first intuition is to not believe them.
No, and trust the perpetrator, the predator,
the alleged perpetrator.
You know, and like fair enough. Sit there and think that's not proven. I'm not going to think anything about it. But don't sit there and defend the perpetrator. I just don't think
like
that's...
off the bat, just be like, oh, they couldn't have done it.
Yeah.
Like people that have come in to defend him that have known him for years. It's like, well, firstly, you're a bloke, so why is he going to try and fuck you?
Well, yeah.
Oh, I've never seen him do anything. Of course you haven't. He does it behind closed doors.
Well, yeah,
do you know
exactly.
what I mean? Or in a toilet. You know, it's not that, but it's behind a door at least.
Closed door, yeah.
You know, I don't know. And they all talked about this look in his eyes, stuff like that, which, oof, it's like a shark.
Yeah, right.
Heebie-jeebies. Oh, bye everyone. Thanks for listening to the story. Bye.